What's up, guys? This is Caleb Cockrell, back with Grab Your Torch, and I'm here with Joel.
What up? We're back.
All right. We had quite an episode this week of Survivor. I'm really glad that it feels like we're getting back to the show that we fell in love with. And the new era, I would say, is not that. And so, um, but this episode and this season so far has really been living up to the hype surrounding 90-minute episodes. I don't know if that's the solution, but I also think that the producers are making a lot of great creative decisions as well.
I fully agree. I think that it just feels more old school. It feels like just that era Survivor a lot of people grew up on with now going to be a tribe swap, but more importantly, just seeing character moments, seeing dynamics. Like we get a full grasp of the game and we're not just like under editing someone. I mean, there's people under edited, but at least we get like little bits and pieces of their personality here and there.
Absolutely. So we have quite a bit to get through today because there's a lot of content in this episode. So I guess we can start with the most obvious, which would be the vote out. That was crazy. Um, Seeing Sabaya go, for some reason in my head, like the whole time back in my mind, I was like, what if Sabaya gets blindsided? I don't know why I kept thinking that. I don't know if you felt the same way or not, but
Um, Yeah, I was going into tribal. I started to think like maybe Caleb does get voted out here. But then, the second Emily starts talking about like, hey, Caleb's been nice to me. He's been the only one that's been trying. That's when I knew, hey, Sabaya is in a lot of trouble here. But
absolutely.
I mean, there were so many things that happened that tribal, a lot of complex gameplay, which looking at the idols, I actually do like how the idols are used this season.
I definitely agree with that. I think leaving it in the players' hands of getting to choose whether or not to make their item more powerful. I think any advantage can work if it's in the players' hands and they get to decide how to use it versus everything getting told from the producers like, hey, this is how this advantage is going to work. You're going to lose your vote, for three tribals, and then you'll be good to go after that. And it's kind of like, but it gives more power to the players, and I'm all for that. And so I've really enjoyed kind of seeing what the idols were about, and also them actually like digging for an idol today. Like once
Yeah,
they
like it's
got
actually
that,
hard to find.
yes. So that's really fun to watch, and I know they're not getting lazy with it now, and so that's good to see. And we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Oh, hugely. I think just like hopping into like the Yellow Tribe, just I mean, they're right now the main characters of the season. Like when they lost, they got the sad music. They Every perspective was on them. We got to see so much, and it was cool to see a reward challenge though, which they did win
It really
actually.
was cool to see that. And then what did they win? Not a trip to, that random like shack in the middle of Fiji where they get the
Got
fancy
like
reward.
a
But they just
plate of
they
fruit.
like that's just a cool reward. It's like a
Yeah.
classic survivor reward, like you just get fruit, you get sustenance, you get to go, steal an item from another tribe, which the other
Mhm.
tribes don't really have any other items, and so it's not really a big consequence for them. But I think it's cool they get to forge a relationship with someone, and they also get just like a simple fruit reward, and it's not going to the sanctuary and getting whatever they have that week.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it was interesting hopping in like Emily just straight up does not have a filter saying like Caleb's the most social and then he backs it up over there and they recognize it. Um it was cool to see where even they were like he's a really good player. Like you can tell he's a really good player, but he's building trust over there, he's building bonds. But I was confused why he didn't just grab the flint. Like
That's a fair point. Because why would he get the fishing gear if he can't cook it when he catches fish?
yeah, a
So
part of me thinks it might be just like Caleb not wanting Savai to get the advantage, maybe just thinking ahead, but also maybe he just assumed he was going to win that immunity anyways and get it.
absolutely, and there's quite the realm of possibility as far as that goes. And then one thing I wanted to mention before we move past it completely was, just Caleb's move in general, last week we talked about this a lot, just him forging that relationship with Emily. We were talking about how good of a move it was last week, but this week especially, like it's really paid dividends. Like he has people that are supporting him, and he got out of a lot of trouble today. And he would have been the one going home if it wasn't for that relationship that he made. And so getting to see just how good of a social game he has, I think is really doing him a lot of favors right now in this game.
Hmm.
I could also talk about this and over the course of Survivor history, I feel like social threats are finally getting a lot more recognition that they deserve. And I think in the early seasons, it was all about physical. Like that was kind of the whole point. Is just whoever's the strongest you want to keep, whoever's the weakest you get rid of. And it's kind of pagonging from there. And then it kind of moved into more of who is the biggest strategic threat. I think that culminated with um, season 31, Second Chance. I think that's really when it was like, boom, strategic is the only thing that matters, and it's been like that for a long time. But social has been becoming more and more of an important thing. It's always been an important thing, but people don't talk about it. And what they don't realize is the last few winners that we've had in this new era are all because they were insanely good at playing the social game. And they did make strategic moves, sure, but social is what really got them the win. And so seeing Kaleb go all in with his social game, I think that's definitely the right move. But like we were saying, people are starting to recognize that.
Oh, 100%. I think it's interesting, like literally the season after we get Jam Jam, arguably like probably in my opinion, the second most social winner ever, other than like JT. Like we're talking even every winner of the new era, you could argue they solely won because they're just the most social. And you have Kaleb who obviously demonstrates that with Emily, where I think it's interesting that with this tribe that's just like collapsing, he was able to flip, and no matter like every single tribal he's had power, and it's because of his social connections. And I think Sean, like, look, Sean is just not getting targeted at all. But I think it's also interesting that like no one talks about it, but Emily has not gotten a vote, and
Really good
it
point.
is it is really cool to see her like have this like you said like this Nick Wilson arc of like Prob goes home first if it wasn't for a quit, but now she's had in the power position. Like she's been social, she's made good connections to the point where she wasn't even targeted this tribal. In fact, she was the one with the sole decision on who to vote out, which I think is super interesting.
I totally agree. And I think that was such a great part of the episode. So moving away from yellow, we can talk a little bit more about Bello, which is the blue tribe. And Jake and Kendra are starting to make a relationship. And so that's really cool to watch. And I think that's good for Jake. I think he's getting out of the heat he had for the first few days. And since they're not going to tribal, I mean he who knows who is next week because of a tribe swap that we'll talk about later. But he seems to be in a good position with the members of his tribe now. We'll see how he fares, with whoever ends up on his swap team.
Oh yeah. I think it's interesting that like it all kind of changed sort of by accident that he was just inhaling smoke and had like passed out slash seizure. Like he was just having a bad time and she happened to be there and she had this like, I don't know, just emotional connection and he used that and they used it together. And now she was like, hey, I'm sorry for targeting you. Like, and he just took it in stride. He didn't get mad, but also, it also kind of seemed like it alerted him a little more to like be more social. Because if you look at it, I feel like Brando and Bruce are probably the most social on that tribe, just outwardly, um, where people seem to notice, at least Bruce. But Brando and Kelly, they're like navigating the middle, seeing where things are happening. And I think it's you don't get a lot from that tribe. And there's a lot of complex stuff happening, but I'm not really sure where it's going to lead to.
For sure. And I really liked what we got from Kelly this week too. Like I think she's in the perfect spot within this tribe. Sucks that everything is changing next week, but if she continues to use the skills that she had at that tribe, like she can put herself in the best position possible. And I think she did really well on the blue tribe. Like she was talking about how she and Brando were in the middle of the other two girls, uh, and then Bruce and Jake as well. And she was just kind of deciding where she wanted things to go. And they're actually recognizing how Katura is like actually a threat now. And so
Mhm.
I think that was really cool to watch as well.
Oh yeah, it's still interesting. I don't think they found their idol yet, have they?
I don't think so. Who knows if maybe like the four people from Red come over and they're like, "Oh, you haven't found an idol? We know how to do this," and then get in a second one for themselves.
Yeah, that I mean, it's going to be crazy, especially with a swap where people are going to come in knowing at least how to find the idol. And I think you nailed it. I think red would be is a perfect opportunity. But it is cool that like each idol, how they find it, the tasks, they're all different.
I like that as well. It makes it more of a challenge, and instead of everyone doing the same thing, it's good for TV purposes as well. We get
Oh
to
yeah.
enjoy watching three different processes of finding an idol. But all that being said, I've really enjoyed the actually stepping up their game with the clues. What do you think about the? We can move on to the red tribe a little bit since we were talking about them a little bit already. Just they're playing very well as a four, the group of four,
Mm.
and I was slightly worried at the beginning that Austin and Drew were gonna sell the bag and
Mm.
kind of they really just kind of got in a vulnerable spot, them just digging for an idol and then they just walk by and find them. And so they somehow got out of it and then the girls were willing to work with them still. And I think that's kind of shows that they've been playing socially together. Drew's been honest about everything pretty much. And
Yeah,
so
he's like
that's helped him.
madly on. It's weird. I think the one time he lied, it was just like so bad of a lie. Like I do think what he said like initially was good. It was the fact that he just like he was digging at the tree and they just happened to get lost and see him, Julie and D, and then he's like, "Oh," walks away. Like you gotta talk there. Like you gotta do something. But it is good that they did bring it up. They did talk about the beware that they had it, and they could have easily taken that hammer they found in them like 3 feet under the ground and ran, gotten the idol, but they told them. And I think that is huge, where that four is very, very tight. And especially you have two duos, you have Austin and Drew, and you have Julie and D, where all of them are pretty interconnected. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes because historically, like the best amount of tribe members or alliance members is like 4 or 3. I think 3 works a little better, but just like history wise. But I'm sure that they have like a pretty good understanding, and I think it will be good in the long run.
I totally agree with you on all that. As far as like the red trim in general, like Sifu and Jay are just not doing anything at all. And that's really a shame to see. Maybe we'll get more from them come the swap this next week. But to me, that's kind of where I'm looking to see who might actually go home next week because we've seen a lot of like the big four on red, like we're gonna get out this person. Like we want to get out Sifu. He's always kind of been the target since the beginning. As far as blue goes, I can see Bruce going home. I could see, Katura going home either as well. We've seen a little bit of heat from them. I honestly think that Lulu's safe this week for the first time. I think they're all
I,
in a good spot. Maybe Caleb, he's because we've had a little bit about how he's been really good at social, but this week proved that he can get out of anything. He
oh,
was he was gone, and then somehow he had the intuition to trust Emily in that moment, and so we'll see what happens. I'm kind of starstruck right now a little bit just about how well he's playing.
it is really, really cool to see. I think in general, we're having a lot of really good gameplay where I felt like in season 44, like there's only three players I could say were actually playing well. And they're playing extremely well, like some of the best games I've seen of the new era. But it's been kind of this like repetitive theme over that like one player is just dominating. Where like you had like at first it was Shan taken over by Ricard in 41. Then you just had Omer the entire season essentially, and then ending with like Marianne slash Mike, and then 43 you have Jesse and Cody with Jesse getting a lot of the credit of just running the show, and then Tika 3 44. While here you don't really know who it's gonna be. There's a lot of pairs out there, and you don't know if it's going to be Kaleb and Emily. It might even be Brando and Kelly. Like there's a lot of ways the season can go, and this, I mean, grilling your idol, like what a performance.
I totally agree. Like that's very creative, and like Jeff talked about it on his podcast. He was like, we could have even ever have thought about that possibility of happening. Like that just shows how creative the players can be and how smart they can be and adapting. Like he was like, there's no way no one's gonna have fire at this point. But
Yeah.
behold, they didn't have fire, and so she was smart enough to think to go to tribal and just drop it in there and let it cook for the entire tribal, which is pretty funny. Great
It was
moment.
interesting. It was interesting because like I think she actually played really, really well this season. I don't like I can't even blame her for not like for giving up her vote. Like that's I think that's a really good thing because like she thought she had the numbers. It to her it didn't make sense to Emily not to do that, but she didn't recognize that connection, which is where Kaleb just had one step over, and where Emily, even in an even better move, in my opinion, completely flipping the game in her favor. That now she's just saved Kaleb, and he's going to be very loyal to her, and she's going to be loyal to him, and she just has an ally now that she can actually trust.
Absolutely. And it's already paying dividends, I think, and it will continue to do so. And I think the Kaleb and Emily duo is just they're going to stick with it and continue to remain tight, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, just judging by like their connection so far. I agree with you about Sabaya's game. I think she played very well. Um, and she had two votes already of experience versus the other two tribes who have had none.
Mm-hmm.
So any yellow tribe member that's going to go to a new tribe, they're going to know what to do, and the rest of the people are not. And so getting to see them working with the other tribes, and seeing how that comes to fruition. And honestly, I don't know if the other tribes like can get Lulu out, because they've already had that experience, and I think they're doing a really good job at positioning, and they know what to do, and they can use that to their advantage.
Mm-hmm. And I think just looking at it, I mean, Sean's just getting no content. I personally right now don't think he has any shot of winning unless he just comes on really strong post merge. But right now he's just getting kind of thrown around over there where he was just loyal to Zavai and it burnt him. Now he's kind of by himself, or at least Kaleb and Emily have each other. And hopefully that save like Emily and Sean get swapped together. I mean, that could be really bad. But also I feel like I have confidence in Caleb somehow reconnecting that. And I think out of the two, I mean, they're the main characters of the season so far. Granted, they kind of have to be. They've been the only ones to go to tribal. Like Caleb and Emily are two massive characters, like in their own respective and different ways. That I believe that both of them are going to go at least to the merge. The only one I'd have any reservations about right now is actually Caleb, where people are already clocking him as a threat, and people might see Emily as someone they can like take further into the game.
I totally agree. Um, would you like to talk a little bit about how we actually had a reward challenge this week? I know we mentioned that, but
Yes, I'd love to talk about it. I think it was such a fun like I was like, what is happening? Like we never do this anymore. And then it was the same one that like Heather just like was terrible at, where they had to like throw it on this thing and run
right.
through a bunch of ropes.
I liked it. It's very simple and got the job done. And Caleb's the only reason they won.
Okay.
He just destroyed that challenge. He nailed everything like his first try, which was really cool. And something that I was telling you earlier, like after I watched the episode, was like part of me was kept thinking in the back of my head, like, is Survivor playing us? Are they actually doing 39 days right now? Because
Mhm.
it's day 7. Usually in the normal cycle, the third person voted out is day 8, which is, it's still a 1 day difference, 1 day less. I'm probably totally wrong, but I kept getting like this suspicion. I'm like, what if we're like getting played? Like, please, please
That'd
back
be
to
that'd be
third.
pretty. It'd be a nice little twist for like the audience, but I mean, they're still going at a breakneck pace right now.
And I was listening to the Survivor specialists, and they're just kind of talking about like all the COVID stuff. It's people are getting over it. He was saying like he works at Disney, and they're getting rid of like all the code rules and stuff finally. Like it's time to move past it. And I think survivors recognize that somewhat. They're moving in the right direction right now. I I still believe we can get back to where we were.
I do too.
Oh, I hope that we can. But
I, I was thinking about like all like the last four winners and how they would play in an actual like 30-night game setting. And I'm like, I think they would still do just as well, like if not better. Like in a game where you have another day to be social. Like Jam Jam already played a very dominant game, and they had one off day, and Survivor just spent the entire time talking about how much he loved it and how good he was in that situation. I can only imagine how like future players will be back at that, where now they get to be more social, but also have more time to look for idols, all the stuff, like be more characters, like it's just more content. And especially if they keep up 90-minute episodes, it's going to work really well.
especially, yeah, I agree with that. And with the off days, like that's so crucial. Like if you're going to tribal every day, you're not having the time to develop your strategy and
Mm-hmm.
build those relationships with people. It's kind of like you lock in with whoever you're with, and you just kind of have to go with it. And it's hard to kind of flip that on a dime, and because you're not actually building close relationships, you're having that short term, and then you have to flip on a dime, and it's so fast paced. I think it hinders people's ability to play, and I think it hinders the pacing, and also like what you were saying, just how much an off day can truly like affect a player's game. And I agree with your statement that the winners of the last few seasons could do really well, and I think they still would do really well, especially with that extra time to talk to people. So I'm excited for the future of Survivor. I think this season has proven that we're moving in the right direction, and I think it's been stale a while, but I feel like we're finally getting something fresh, and I'm really grateful and excited for that.
Yeah, I definitely say right now, like this season, I mean, that premiere was rough, but going from there to this episode has been huge. And it's definitely, to me, this is one of the best episodes pre merge wise we've had in a very long time, where it kind of just felt like Kagion just seeing like the Brains tribe just lose over and over again and having like these crazy tribals. And this has been like a crazy one, like grilling an idol to getting the idol to Emily convincing Caleb to flip for his own sake, not hers, by having the choice of basically saving herself or like just losing the idol, but like voting out Caleb and saving herself, to risking it, to getting voted out in a 1-2 vote. I mean, so much was happening. Such a great episode. Such a great ending of like one of the best players in the game just getting out so early and seeing that Emily has completed like this full like transformation of first boot to now top of her tribe, and Caleb his social game and that single fact he was trying to like mold her into that saved him. It was incredible. It was great.
It was incredible all around. I enjoyed it wholeheartedly too. And I had such a grin on my face just watching it. And like I had that like nervous, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Like I haven't gotten that in a long time. And so like actually thinking about, oh dang, like they're rolling, and I don't know what's gonna happen, and I can't even predict it at all. Like I it was just watching it all unfold was just really awesome.
it was interesting because it could have been a 1-1-1 though. And because Emily would have voted Savai, Kaleb would have voted Emily, and Savai would have voted Kaleb. In just like roundabout way where like or like Sean would have voted Kaleb, my bad. But it was just like this crazy thing where like what happens then? And it was so cool to see that like nearly happen, but more importantly, like regardless if it was Kaleb or Savai going home, it was like their own doing the reason they went home. Like Savai targeting Kaleb was the reason she went home. Like if she didn't do that, Emily would have gone.
Absolutely.
And it was just miraculous to see.
And then one more thought that I had, in addition to everything, is Caleb trying to do an intentional Matt Sing? We've been talking about this forever.
Yeah, I
Like
was thinking about it. It's
he's so
possible.
good in challenges. Like he was just kind of sitting there in the puzzle, Like I just, it didn't seem like he was doing a lot, and you could look over at the other tribe's puzzle and see like how to do it, and they weren't doing that. I don't know. They're just kind of standing there at the end. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a little sus to me.
it's definitely possible. I think it's honestly not a half-bad strategy.
Yeah.
Uh, you saw Shannon Ricard do it. You you've seen like Malcolm and Denise. Like it basically forces these two to be super close. And Emily and Caleb, whether intentional or not, have done it again. And now it's kind of like, what are they going to do with it? A lot of people see Malcolm Denise vibes. They see them going a long way where now going into a swap that they can make even more connections. And I mean, Caleb's already social. He already has a connection with Drew. Therefore, all four of them, he and I'm like, he would make such quick friends of like Bruce and Jake,
Oh,
like a
absolutely.
lot of guys. He would just instantly connect with. Well, Emily has a harder time, but she's now been a lot better at um, being social, all these things, and maybe just like a new group of people is just exactly what she needs.
Absolutely. All right. Would you like to move into predictions for next week?
Let's do it.
What do you got for me?
So basically I think it's really so cool we finally get a swap. Not just like Carson randomly just getting thrown into another tribe, no. And like a full swap, all this stuff. And I think it's cool. I think Emily had like a blue buff on. I think what did they say? I think it was Jake and Bruce are still together, which is interesting to me. Because we've seen their relationship in previous episodes. But oh, what was the challenge? It was like
I didn't
it
even.
was one from like Kagiyan or something where I recognized it.
I mean, today's immunity challenge, part of it was from Kagiyan, like them doing the cart and getting
Yeah,
the barricade. I remember that distinctly, but they didn't have as disaster of a of doing
no,
it brain
that'd be
tribes.
crazy.
Yes,
But no, I think having just a swap in general just elevates gameplay, and I'm excited to see where it all goes. It seems like, I mean, Jake, great quote where like, I guess I'm what is it? I guess I'm flipping. Good thing I'm a good swimmer, or something along those lines. I'm like, that's a great quote because he has like a villain laugh after. It's awesome.
yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I do not know how to predict what's going to happen next week just because of the swap. Like, there's no way. I feel like I've mentioned this previously. I think yellow's safe. But who knows? Something could happen. Maybe Sean could go, but
Yeah, I want to
any
be the only one I
that
would feel like somewhat comfortable saying.
because I think at this point Caleb and Emily are too locked in. Like they're locks for the merge for sure.
Hmm.
Just after this last episode, or I guess that was last night. Yeah. And then like I mentioned before, there's a lot of heat from Bruce, a lot of heat from Katura. I'm also on red, like Sifu and Jay, like they're not really in a good spot. But
Hmm.
I don't know if that will continue to tribe like swap tribes. it's so easy to predict when they don't swap. And so we'll
Oh
see
yeah.
what happens. I am not confident at all in what's going to happen, but
Me
we'll see it.
neither.
We'll see it. We'll watch it unfold, and hopefully it will continue on this insane pace that we've gotten so far. I think the
Oh,
pacing of the episodes overall are so much better with 90 minutes. We have so much time to like actually think about the episode, kind of sit with what's happening. I do agree with Jeff in this though. Like, yeah, 40 minutes isn't enough to cover it, but I do think cutting out some of the idols and advantages stuff would help with that. But
mhm.
I think the way they've done it, they want to keep moving forward with having all the idols and advantages and trying to explain all that. But having 90-minute episodes makes it work. And then the only last thing we need is 39 days and maybe
Then we're
travel
back.
to other countries, and we're back.
We'll be so back then, and I think it's just feeling like old school Survivor. It feels like the Survivor we love, not this like everyone's going crazy. Like we need to make big moves. Like people are thinking it through, and the big moves make sense. And one of my biggest like pet peeves has always been like when a player needs to make a move for their resume because that's not making a move. That's making a logical move that looks flashier. And I think something that we haven't really seen ever really is that everyone thought like Caleb's such a big threat. I can't be at the end with him. It's like you're on day what, 7? And so I like let's calm down a little.
Let's calm
Let's
down.
like you have plenty of time to vote him out. And I think what Survivor like New School has been really pushing towards is just getting like a solid group. Like old school Survivor, just like you would have your tribe and you get your tribe to the end. And it's starting to become that again, where this weird full circle of just get your tribe to the end because these are the people I trust. And it's been this cool like circling of evolution of the game where like in the middle, like what was it, like vote clusters, stuff like that, where it was just scrambling to just get votes and who it didn't really matter who. But now like your vote really, really means something.
I totally agree. And I keep feeling like parallels from the new era versus like the first 8 seasons of Survivor. Like I just keep feeling that parallel there. Like we're having our first swap, season 3, first swap, stuff like that. Um, I think, yeah, having the same tribes going all the way. Who knows? Do you think that season 48 is our all-star season of the new era?
I think that'd be
Obviously,
really,
it's going to be
really
something,
cool. It'd be cool if they just named it All Stars too, like no twist with it.
right? And I wish we had. I honestly hope that in the next couple cycles we have returning seasons. I've been clamoring for those.
I really want like a fans versus failures, like where it's like pre-mergers versus like oh, what was it? Jeff talked about like the finalists versus like the first boots. And I'm like, that'd be really
That'd be
interesting.
really interesting. And who knows if he actually goes with that? That'd
That'd
be really
I
cool
would
to watch.
it'd be cool to see Cassidy again. It'd be cool to see Carolyn again. All these play for Xander. You'd have a lot of options, especially with like first boot getting
First
Zach
boots.
out.
Reem.
Oh my gosh, right? We need Reem back.
We need
Get
Reem
Xander.
back.
There's a lot of people that would be great TV to bring back. And I think that's one of the more interesting ideas of our journey.
I agree. All right. With all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube or listening, if you're listening to any podcast platform, fortunately, we're not on Google yet, but we might get on there at some point. So I appreciate you guys for listening. We'll continue to make more content. I think we are looking to do our season rankings soon. And so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, just, try to reach out to us. We'd like to answer your questions. And hopefully, if you enjoy the show, you can rate it, leave us a review. That helps a lot. Just kind of getting the publicity out there. So thank you guys. We will be back for next week.
Deuces.